let me inject some cold water into our bullishness just to make sure we're steel manning the alternative case. So you think it's somewhat like maybe it's May, for example, in the crypto cycle, where we're at the beginning of entering summertime in another 4-year cycle. So new all-time highs. Like, Bitcoin, going up. I don't know if you have price predictions on this. Maybe we can get to that at the end of the episode, but significantly, Ether going up significantly, long tail of crypto assets going up significantly. But what if that doesn't happen? And let me give you some takes on why it might not happen. So the negative signals in crypto, retail really hasn't come yet this cycle. It very much seems this way. If you look at kind of like Coinbase traffic, other indicators, retail is not fully here. I mean, fits and starts, you see them in like doing things in meme coins, but mostly that's like PvP, like crypto. It's just the crypto natives being bored and just doing meme coin shenanigans. We also don't really have a killer breakout app this cycle. Previous cycles we're discovering DeFi for the very first time. We're discovering NFTs, and what's the equivalent for this cycle? We haven't yet seen it. And I think there is this underlying almost like nihilism, cynicism that pervades the space, even among the multi-cycle crypto natives, like somewhat, but also just like in general, if the outside looking in, that crypto is just not going to live up to the hype. It's not like AI. It's not going to be transformational. It's just a giant casino. Bitcoin's 15 years old. Ethereum is 9 years old. You'd think they would have figured it out by now. You'd think the use cases would have emerged faster, and they're just not. So maybe this is kind of a casino and a small niche, not what all the crypto bulls thought it would be. Obviously, this is not my perspective. This is not the Bankless canon perspective. But let's steelman this argument here a little bit. Like, do you think there's any merit to this?
There's a lot of merit to all of those arguments. And that's why I think that this has been taking such a long period of time to unfold. The biggest merit in that argument is that crypto tends to want to focus on the casino aspects of it. Everybody wants to talk about price predictions, number go up, as opposed to, take the AI thing. When you talk to people about AI, they are going to tell you what AI is going to do to revolutionize the world. And when it does that, don't worry about NVIDIA. Its price will make you wealthy. So we're not talking about NVIDIA number go up. We're talking about what AI is going to do for the world. That's what crypto's got to do. What's crypto going to do for the world? As opposed to talking about when are we going to have the next wedge breakout to, some kind of projection in the price. Now, I actually think that what might help that is some of the TradFi firms coming in, because if they're going to bring a mentality to this space, the mentality of this space is not going to be that we need to get Bitcoin above 100 and then we're going to FOMO everybody for the next 100. No, their argument is, how are we going to get everybody to start using this as an alternative to the US dollar in the current TradFi system, either as a store of value or a medium of exchange, or is it at some transaction level? That's where they're going to start to push real hard. And I think that once they start doing that, I think that you could definitely see the price go. And you're absolutely right that every big major pump in crypto comes from new innovation. 2020 summer, DeFi summer, 2022 NFTs. 2024, I think the killer app for 2024 was supposed to be the ETF, but it really hasn't played. It's not a negative, the ETF, other than maybe it's dragging money from on-chain back into the TradFi world. But at a minimum, it's just not living up to the hype, because every killer app, whether it is DeFi or an NFT, drags more people in to the on-chain world. The ETF is not doing that. And that was supposed to be the killer app at the beginning of the year. So now we're waiting for something else to come along that might be the killer app. We're talking more about tokenization. I think tokenization of treasuries might be a very interesting one. The treasury's got a lot of debt they got to issue. And if they could find other ways to get other people involved in it, like tokenizing treasuries on chain, that could be very interesting as well. I know a lot of people are pushing real hard to get into this space in a tokenized way. So maybe that will be it. But I agree with you that part of the mentality of the space has got to be, we need to get everybody to use this alternative financial system. Part of the problem with Bitcoin is they think we're done. We've created the perfect instrument. Now we're just going to wait for everybody to figure it out and arrive. They're working there too with L2s and NFTs in that space, and they need to continue to develop that out as well. And that has some very big promise. But along the way, we all then get trapped into, you're right, we get bored, we play with meme coins, or we talk about breakouts and technical analysis and all of that other stuff, and we talk about FOMO. FOMO is not going to get anybody really in. Really, if you look at NVIDIA, what the FOMO around NVIDIA is not necessarily the price breakout, but the narrative. I get it. It's going to be the biggest thing since the internet, maybe bigger than the internet. And I saw what the internet did to transformize the U.S. economy and what it did in the early stages for all those internet stocks. I'm in. Whether or not it's breaking out or whatever, I'm in. That's how you got to get people into the crypto space. Not just talking about whether or not we're going to get to 100,000 and FOMO in everybody after that in Bitcoin, but what does it do? What do we do with it other than custody it and wait for the price to go up? And that is where I think the space is going to have to keep going. It's very close. It is very close to being there. As we mentioned before, right? The UI UX is 100x better than it was 7 years ago. It has to get better for, like you said, my mother, your mother to, want to give up their Schwab account and move into this space. But it can get there. It's getting there, but it's got to continue to work towards that.
It feels very much like we are 6 to 12 months away from that. But also that like it could take a long time. Like we could be perpetually 6 to 12 months away from that. Like in a way, if that makes sense, because like there are, layer 2s are fantastic. We've got this path to on-chain now that we didn't have last cycle, which is kind of the Coinbase, and then you go directly to the base chain, and the wallet experience is just like fantastic, and your apps are there. We just haven't really connected that with retail yet. And I do wonder if, like, just fleshing out the steel man on the bear side a little bit, coming back to this this NASDAQ chart, and we were talking about the internet being, the 1999, 2000, the bubble, all of the wildest dreams of the internet eventually came true. But there was this dark period of building, at least from an asset price appreciation. A lot of building got done, but the assets didn't reach highs again for 16 years. I'm not saying we're going to be 16 years in kind of the dark ages with respect to crypto, but it could take a little bit longer than last cycles. It is a take here. I'm still a believer in the base case 4-year cycle. Just like wait for it. It's going to happen just as it always has. But there's a part of me that wonders if it's going to take a bit more time because we have some building to do first before we reach kind of all-time highs and go back to the moon. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would also say, too, that as far as some of the building goes, I think that there needs to be a bit of a different mentality about the building. A lot of people in the space kind of, for lack of a better word, take a gaming mentality, right? Let's just get 1.0 out there. It's a little bit buggy. It doesn't work right. And we'll kind of fix it with 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0 and eventually we'll get it right. All right. If I'm playing World of Warcraft and I get the blue screen of death, there's no big deal. But there's two industries you absolutely cannot do that with. And that is money and healthcare. You cannot put out a buggy 1.0 DEX or a buggy 1.0 bridge or a buggy 1.0 wallet. We saw that in 22 and 23 with all of the hacks and the money lost, and not understanding, maybe the space didn't understand from the TradFi space, the tremendous reputational damage that did. In that even if, like the Solana going down a few months ago, it went down, for a couple of hours and totally just kind of joked about it online on X. Understand that people that are looking at Solana and thinking about Solana and hear that and see him, it is tremendously damaging to the reputation of it. You cannot go down ever one time, ever. And if you do, everybody associated with it should be fired, and they should bring in new people and tell them you can never, ever go down. It's just like with healthcare, and Theranos. You can't just throw this out there and it doesn't work. People die. if you do that. You could do it in the gaming industry. You can do it if you're trying to put up a blog. You can do it in some of those other, because no one dies and no one loses all their money if you screw it up. And so hopefully when the building comes, and we've gone, maybe you correct me here, but we've gone through a pretty long period here now without any major hack problems or any reputational damage in the crypto space recently. We got to keep this up. And, my fear is that we get into another mania building phase and then everything kind of goes sideways again. And it just, scares the hell out of people that they don't want to put their money in that space. So this is part of understand the space that you're in. If you're going to build in this space, you're asking people to put their money in this space. It can never go down. It can never get hacked, ever, not once, ever. And it can never cause a problem for anybody. That's the one thing the TradFi space does for you, is that it promises you it will never go down. It will always be there. And if it does go down through an act of God, they'll make you whole, even though they don't have to. And so that's really where the space is got to really start to think about things.
I think that's a great take, Jim. One example I saw earlier this week is this company called Exponential, which is kind of cool, but they basically are exposing different DeFi yield type opportunities, but they're doing it in kind of a unique way, which is like they're actually showing you the risk adjusted rate of return. So they're doing risk profiles. You can get DeFi yield in all these various places, Compound, Aave. But in 2022, people were getting this in Terra Luna, and it promised 18 to 22% yield returns. And what terrible user experience when you expect to get 20% yield on a stable coin that shouldn't go down. You find out not only did you not get those returns, but all the wealth that you put into this thing dropped to zero. There's an element of this, Jim, where I think we have to get better around education, showing investors risk versus reward and funneling them into the right place. Like, we need some safety rails around this, the type of safety rails that TradFi has.
To continue leveling up your crypto game, then you need to get on the Bankless newsletter. It's the world's most popular crypto email and is completely free. Just click below to sign up.